How to be a trans ally, number 7, final one, and this is a case across all forms of hate crime and hate speech. If you do come across something that is transphobic, whether it be online or in person, make sure
Mhm.
you call it out. Stand up to it. Don't be a bystander. They say that inaction or tokenism only reinforces the status quo. So that just to me is just something that every single human being on the planet should do.
Hmm. It's like any kind of prejudice towards someone who's different. It could be racism. It could be to do with their religion, whatever, like their appearance. Like it's a decent thing to do to call someone out if they're being prejudiced towards someone who isn't there for a start because they're not there to defend themselves, but even more so to to try and be an ally when they're being having something happen against them. And I'll give you an example. So basically, I'd first transitioned. It's in a really low place. I wasn't, I had an eating disorder, really struggling mentally. I was walking through Bournemouth town centre and someone shouted like, "Oh, look at that bloke." And everyone looked, and it was a summer. Like I had a like 5 o'clock shadow then, like wearing wigs and stuff, and I just wanted the ground to swallow me up. And there was this homeless woman selling the big issue. She was Muslim because she had a hijab on, and I walked past her like in tears, and she goes, "Oh, you look beautiful today, darling." That little act of kindness, that support to me, like that was completely nothing to do with confronting those other people. It was more to like to see that I was okay. Flipped it, the whole thing for me, and like made me think actually, it's there are people out there who support me. So it's not just necessarily you don't have to confront someone who is being confrontational. You can be an ally to the person in the situation and not even interact with that person who's throwing the prejudice.
Yeah,
Thank
part
you
of
for
it is kind of
sharing
what
that,
you're.
by the way. Sorry,
Thank
just
you.
thank you for sharing that story.
That was really
It's very
touching.
powerful.
Um, Part of it is then to build off what you're saying, Debbie, is know your limits. Like obviously, we're not asking you to fall on a sword for us.
No.
We're not asking you to take a punch to the face. If so, like I'm a tiny person. I'm not gonna fight anyone. But if if it is something like one of the things we talk about, um, recognizing like racism and stuff, or just something going wrong, is reaching out, and that human contact and understanding that can be sometimes more important. Like calling it out in social media is kind of like fighting disinformation. It's passive. Oh, someone posted something wrong. Like running into a sticker on a poll that you don't agree with, you slap a better sticker up on top of it. When it is in person, yeah, I don't need you to start a fight over me. I'd much rather you just show that you do see it and all of that. And I don't
Mm.
know. I'm very fortunate that I've not had to deal with that too much, but I've also been stuck inside for a year, a year like in 3 days.
And
um,
I think, and just on that last point, as people return to their workplaces, probably one of the most amazing things they could do as allies is just reflect. If people won't have had to experience transphobia because they have been stuck inside for a year, how can
Mm.
I make this a welcoming workplace? That could be a smile, a hello, how are you doing? It doesn't have to be a march down onto Westminster.
No.
Just small tokens to say, I'm glad you're you and I'm glad you're here.
Mm.
That could be really important.
Powerful, very powerful. It
I
can
think
make the difference between someone being in a bad place and someone being in a good place because they're not seeing the gender identity, they're seeing the person, they're looking at the human, they're
Yeah.
making the contact beyond what they see and what they're perceiving that they interpret.
there was an interesting discussion the other day around sort of COVID-19 lockdown and the situation everybody's been put in, where they've all been isolated, they've all been denied of being able to be environments that are comfortable in, that they're used to being in, like pubs, like sports venues, like being able to play sport. Even this was a discussion around playing sport, and the fact that quite often people who identify as transgender don't find a sporting environment a very comfortable place, and perhaps things that they did prior to transition, they no longer do and enjoy because they don't feel safe in that place. And it's kind of, I guess, as a trans ally, if you want to be understand what that person may have gone through, it's the and why it's important to stand up against this type of hate crime is by essentially walking in their shoes and in a way by everybody being locked down at various different points, everybody being restricted and denied opportunities just because of something beyond their control of the environment they're living in at that time, and the frustration and the mental health problems that causes, and the stress and the anxiety that causes. And it's just being able to relate that, is that what a lot of transgender people might have been going through before we'd heard of COVID-19.
Oh, for sure. Actually, that's a great way to kind of do the mental exercises. Like, if you imagine driving through the countryside, during COVID times, imagine the ways that you plan, like, oh, I'm going to stop here. This town is known for not wearing masks. I'm going to try to make it through that area. I do that when I drive anywhere. Like, oh, I can't stop at that neighborhood because I will get beat up. Like, there are no safe bathrooms at this place. Like, I had to make a car drive to pick something up from a friend of mine, and they live out in the countryside. They run a farm. And so I was out in Trump territory, and when I was coming home, I stopped at a state-run rest area. I'm like, okay, well, I should be safe there. When I was going in toward the women's bathroom, I got a really nasty look from someone, and then made the decision then and there, like, they have a family non-gendered bathroom. I'm just going to use that and just not have this problem today. And I mean, so when you think about like how COVID's impacted how you travel and how you interact with things, understand that we deal with that stuff all the time. Just and we're aware of it, and we share that. Like, part of it is just asking the questions between trans people, like, can I go there? Are these people gonna like? And we share, like, oh, don't go to that salon, go to that salon. Don't go to that tattoo parlor, go to that tattoo parlor.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why LGBT communities exist, like physically, like neighborhoods and stuff. It's for safety.